Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we are going to be skill fusing the first anniversary Milim, Dark Milim, who, right now is a alt buffer and personal attack buffer for 15%, and the alt is 70. So, she's an older unit, over a year old now. She's still a fantastic option for a lot of teams, and if you pull her, she's a really good unit because she's a support, she's an orb changer, she is a DPS, so she can work on a number of teams. And when you skill fuse her, her alt buff will at level 10 still remain at 70%, but her attack buff becomes all dark allies attack goes up to 25%. So not only does she get a 10% buff, but she's also now buffing anyone who is dark as well. So we are here to do that today because I think this is actually a fairly good skill fusion for her because it turns her into an even better support while also keeping her as still a solid DPS option because she's getting a buff, dark allies are getting a buff. There's quite a few dark units in the game now, so I think this should work fairly well. So let's go ahead and fuse it, and then I'll get it leveled up, and we will jump right into a battle. Probably her initial Tempered Edge with the Dark Anniversary team. So I'll see you guys there. Alright, so Dark 2.0 Tempered Edge, full Dark team, so no matter who's up front, they're going to get that buff. We've got Lumi, skill fuse, so she's got 80% additional alt damage. Milim's got the 70 plus the attack. Isis is a green buffer. Shinsha's got the dark attack, Rimu's got the crit damage, Valdora's got the magic attack. The only problem with this team is that we lack a dedicated orange orb changer, which is just the fault of that sad intern who didn't give it to Shinsha. This team generally can run fine, it's just if you get more than 2 orange orbs, you're kind of fucked. So let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, so I might reset and cut until like turn 2, depending on how turn 1 wants to treat me. Sometimes it can giggle a little bit, and it can make me feel a little dumb. But sometimes turn 1 can be okay, because if we get like a whole hand of oranges, then, sure, we'll hold on to that. But sometimes we get like 3 oranges and 1 green, and yeah, we can't really do much with that. So, well, we can do something with that. All right. So, we've got 96 points. Let's go ahead and use the special convert right here with Milim. And then we can do the buff right here. We could do the buff right there with Shinsha. So now he's got, crit resistance down. The skill, or all orbs are going to give us more skill points in general. And then we're going to take Shinsha out of here. And then we'll reset. And then we'll use the Isis orb change. Now, I could have not gone with the Shinsha skill, and I could have gone with the Isis green buff, but I kind of don't want to get ults this early on right now. And this spread is looking pretty good, so we can just get another turn of, no guaranteed ults. It doesn't get us another protector, but with the trait from Valentine, I think we should be able to clear that little last bit and be able to use the reset if necessary. So we're not really going to see the dark attack buff until the very end. Okay, that works out very well. Anyways, so, it's not going to be truly important until we need to actually nuke, which I think is fine, right? It's a 55-point skill, so you're already not really going to use it too often anyways. So the fact that it's restricted to it is just, oh no, you still got to wait to the nuke to actually see it. Not a terrible loss, all right? So, let's see, Lumi, we're up to 20%, no, 40% on her buff right there. And we no longer have her trait either. We're gonna get the Milim alt now. We got a Lumi alt as well. He's already down to like half HP or something, so it just goes to show how old this stage is. And that's a terrible hand right there. Okay. There's really nothing we can do about that. I think what we do is we just kind of cut our losses. So we're up to 60% now? Yeah, so we just need one more usage of Lumi. So let's just go ahead and get her out of here. Or let's get Milim out of here, and then we'll just send these blues and call it a day. And the ult, because I don't care about the ult. And that'll get us another protector for Valdora. So as long as we use enough skills to get him to max out at his 70%, we're going to be fine. And we have to wait till turn 8 anyways for Shinsha's buff to activate its secondary effect. And also, we got Milim out of there, so we didn't have to get sealed. Unfortunately, the oranges have come into play. And also, not a lot we can do about that. So, let's just use Veldora. We'll reset these skills so we can use Shinsha's buff again. We can use the final buff with Lumi, and we can, not have to use that anymore. And we'll just burn out these oranges as well. What is Veldora up to now? Okay, he's capped out, so good. So no matter what, we have the maximum 70%. We just need to wait 3 more turns for Shinsha to get her full powered buff, and then we can, see how it goes. Honestly, with his health this low, even if we were to nuke with like Shinsha, now that she's getting an attack buff on the team alongside all the other buffs, she would kill by herself. But we do want to see Milim do this because she is the whole point of the showcase, right? So let's do. Let's get. Well, we get that. That's an unlucky orange right there. We could take you out, I guess. Use the orb change. And we'll just go ahead and send this. That'll get Shinsha's ult. That'll get us another protector. And then we can just kind of hold here. We just need to make sure we have enough points to launch a nuke. So we need 55, 55, and 70, right? 55, 55, and 80. Okay, so 190 points is what we need to guarantee that we get. Which I'm fairly certain we can do. So we only need 12. We can get 14 there. Alright, well, it's good enough, isn't it? Okay. So the Shinsha debuff is leaving, so I mean, she can now receive the attack buff, but we do want to nuke with Milim, because she is the whole point. Even though we are supporting the rest of the team, so even if Milim didn't have an ult, we would still be giving Shinsha a 25% dark attack. We'd be giving Rimuru a 25%, well, no, not dark attack, but 25% attack. And then the dark attack is coming from Shinsha. So that's 70. We've got the crit. We've got the ult right there. And now we'll put the 70% magic buff on, and we'll see how much Milim does. I think in this scenario, she used to do around like 650k or something like that. Now she's got a few extra buffs on. She's got the attack trait from the Protector Lumi from the 2nd anniversary. We've got 70% dark attack, guaranteed crit, 40% crit damage, 25% attack, 70% magic attack, and then another 10% dark attack from the charm on Veldora. So let's go ahead and send... Actually, let's send 1 orb. Hopefully it doesn't kill him, and then we'll send the ult. 58k, alright. And then we'll watch the animation. 58k is not bad for over a year-old unit now. On a very old team. I still think Veldora is a pretty good protector. I think he's tested the test of time. 823,000 damage. She's not an EX unit. This is a year-old team. I would consider that pretty good. Yeah, I would. This isn't like a permanent stacking team either. No, Veldora caps at 70. This isn't like the Water 2.0 with Milim, where you could just stack forever and ever and ever, and you can get higher than that. This isn't, the Light 3.0 team with Shuna and Raphael, and, their absurd amounts of damage if you can stun and pierce. But, for the only real green stacking team, I think that's pretty good. So that's her as a DPS unit. Let's now see what she can do as far as supporting other dark units, because there are more than a few now. Alright, because I love just taking a dump all over Summer Lumi and how crap of a unit she is, we're going to do a short little science test, because she is buffing up to 100% ult damage for Dark and Fire, while also giving a 10% Dark resistance down. However, is that going to be more effective than Dark Anniversary Milim giving a 70% ult damage plus the 25% dark attack, dark allies attack buff? We're not going to use Milim because she's giving herself her own 25%. We're going to use Hinata. As a single target damage dealer and orb sealer, also someone who gives herself crit, we're going to run the trainee team means we have to stay here for a while because we need to use Trainee 5 times to get Lumi stacked up. But let's see how much damage we can do with, this team as it is right here. So the crit, the alt damage, the resistance down, the alt resistance down, plus the crit damage. We're not going to benefit from the weakness strike because we have to go into Predator Battle, which is type neutral. And so we'll just see how much damage we can get with these 3 units, and then on the next test we'll just swap Lumi for Milim, and we'll see what the difference in power is and who will end up being a better option. Because they're both 55-point skills at the end of the day. Which one is more impactful, aside from this Lumi being, physical, which helps the EX board for Hinata, yada yada, just in a vacuum. We'll test it out, but we got to get there first. All right, it took a while to get 5 protectors with this team. It's not really the greatest. There's not a lot of orb changing going on here, except for Trainee, but if you can't get it, you can't get it. So we've got 180 points to use. Again, we're not using Shizu, so we don't need to worry about that skill. Let's go ahead and bring in Hinata for Shizu. And then we can bring in Violet for Milim, since she's also not doing really anything for the damage output at this point. So, go ahead and use the alt resistance down and the crit damage buff. Hinata already has the crit rate on her, so crit rate right here, so she will benefit from the crit damage. And then we can use Trainee. We only needed 2 more uses of Trainee before we can get Lumi maxed out. So by using this last one right here, that'll put us at the 100% alt damage. And then we should have enough points to use everything else here. So we've got 100% right here, 10% dark resistance down, and then we've got the charm, which will benefit Hinata because she's got the charm strike as well. And then we'll see how much damage the EX alt does, and then we'll come back and do the same thing with the same buffs. I don't know about the same turn, but we'll hopefully have the same debuffs going. And we'll see what Dark Milim can do instead of this Lumi. So Hinata, also an alt I don't really watch that often. She looks good. She looks good. And she's about to murder you while looking good. Call of Squall. I never really realized that was her alt. 337,000 damage. Okay, well, I don't know how well that compares. Honestly, I don't. 337k is the baseline. Let's come back now, and let's do it again with Dark Milim. Okay, so we are back. Turn 7. I could have done it earlier, but oh well. A couple things to note is that, without Lumi, we are not going to benefit from the Charm Strike effect from Hinata, so we don't have anyone to charm, so we're not going to get this 40% damage right here. And also, by taking Lumi out and putting Dark Milim in, it also took down our attack by like 500 points on Hinata. So she's already at a pretty big disadvantage as far as just stats and missing a buff now. But, let's see if we can at least make it somewhat worthy. And then I think the next clip we'll just use Summer Lumi and Dark Milim, and we'll just have the charm and Dark Milim going on, and we'll see how that goes. So alt resistance and crit damage. We also have the crit up for Hinata already, and then we just need to do this once, I think. Yeah, we have 55 points, so it is easier to get because we don't have to wait for 5 activations to do this. So Hinata is still fire attack, physical attack, whatever. Crit, charm strike, which doesn't count. Crit damage, 25% attack right there, plus a 70% from Milim, and an 8% from the charm, which was also active last time too. So let's see, 337 was what we did last time, and we do 244, so quite a bit less damage there. Alright, let's bring Lumi back for the charm strike, at least we'll get that, and we'll see if the numbers are comparable or not, because Summer Shizu's not doing anything for us. Alright, final little test. We've got Summer Lumi back. So we've got the Charm Strike. We're not going to use hers because we haven't maxed it out, but we're going to use Milim's Dark Attack and Alt buff here. We've got the Crit and the Charm Strike on already, so now we just have to bring in Lumi and get the actual Charm on, and then we'll be ready to go. And again, we're looking to see if we can match that 337, or is Lumi still the better option on this, actual physical team? Her own meta. Yeah, well, let's find out. So, Charms, blue damage for 70%. Alright, cool, that doesn't really matter too much here. But now we have to use both trainees to get enough points to use the violet buff. And then we'll be cooking. And we'll see. And then we'll move on to like one final fight. I don't know where we're going to put it yet, but we're going to go somewhere. Alright, so there we go. So we've got guaranteed crit, 40% charm strike, 25% attack, 40% crit damage, plus the defense down, plus the alt resistance down. 337 is the goal. 346. So just a tiny, tiny bit better. So I mean, if you have someone besides Lumi who can give you charm, which there's a few options. There's free to play, Ramris, who is on this meta. She was a free to play unit for this team. Or you have, free to play Sufia. You can get the charm, and you don't have to bring Lumi at all. And yes, you will do a tiny, tiny amount more damage. Nothing like that really shoots her out of the sky and been like, okay, well, she's better than Lumi. Lumi still sucks. But, I mean, if you're looking to min-max, then, that's an option for you, I guess. But, there's some science done. Let's move on to another real fight. Alright, the last team we're going to use is this kind of wonky-looking team. We've got Protector Guy, who is changing 3 and 3 into 6 greens. He's giving us 35% ult gauge every time we use him, and he's putting an AoE damage debuff on the enemy, which we're going to try and make First Anniversary Rimuru a good unit, which sadly he is the forgotten child of the First Anniversary. We're not counting Dark Diablo because he's just a bitch. We've got the Second Anniversary Hinata, who's got the Dark Attack, Milim for the attack buff and the alt buff, and then the magic buff. So we've got, multiple buffs coming here, plus the crit and crit damage for Dark Allies, which Rimuru can give to himself. So in theory, this team should work pretty well. In theory. We're going to go into one of the Bamboo Forest quests, actually, because it does have a stage where we have light units. I think it's like a 2 and 2, so at least it's kind of an AoE scenario. But let's find out. Alright, to get a scientific baseline, we're going to run the same team, but instead of Dark Milim, we're bringing Space Shinsha because she has a 70% ult buff without the extra 25% attack. So we've got the setup as I want it to be, so Rimuru already has the crit and the elemental damage on, so we'll go ahead and just use the 70% ult damage. The space resistance doesn't matter because Rimuru is not space, so we're not going to gain anything from that. We'll swap her out, and then we can use the rain buff. And now here, we're going to see how much damage we do, and then we're going to compare it to the actual run with Dark Milim and see how much more we do with that attack buff. So here, we've got the magic resistance down by 20, we've got the 15% AoE resistance down, Rimuru has a 70% ult buff, and then on himself, he has the crit damage trait, guaranteed crit, 40% crit damage, dark attack 50%, dark attack from the charm, and magic attack 20%. And this will do how much? 130 to 123. Okay. So I already recorded the big time run, like the next run, so I don't know what this run's going to do in that clip, but I can tell you we do more. So let's find out how much more. Alright, we'll make this work. They do have defense and guard, so they're not going to die very quickly, I don't think. But, we'll have to see how well they actually can tank. So this will get us Protector Guy. Okay, they're not as tanky as I thought, unless they guard. Okay. Well, okay, that's a good hand right there. So, we can just use the Milim orb change here. And we only have one Rimuru orb. That is quite unfortunate, though. So we'll do the orb change here, and then we'll take Milim out of here for Rain, and use her green buff. So that'll give us a lot of this right here, and then we'll just kind of send this, and then hopefully next turn we get more orbs for Rimuru himself. And plus, if we really, really need to, we can rush, 70% ult gauge from a double stack of Guy right there? I mean, okay, that's a fine hand right there. I can live with that. So, Let's go ahead and take you out now, since we don't need you for anything else. We'll bring Milim back in, and then we can have quite a bit of orbs right here for Rimuru, plus 35% gauge. I don't really care about this, but there's, you know, there's the instant gauge, there's the AoE debuff, so we'll need to apply that on the enemy when we're ready to. But for now, because we're capped at 100 points, if we want to do this big time nuke, we've got to use both the Rimuru buff and the Hinata buff this turn, and then kill the ant, and then we'll move on to the next phase. And what is this? Guard power. Okay, interesting. So let's use the crit buff and then the element buff, and then we can swap Rimuru out, and then he can exist in the back line. And then next turn we can do this, and we should get another guy anyways. I don't know if we'll have enough points because we need to use what, 80 between Milim and Rain now. Will we have enough? We will have enough, actually. Perfect. All right, so we can just straight up nuke next turn, and we'll be ready to go. Perfect. So we'll carry on into phase 2. 2 more enemies at full HP. We'd have type advantage, and we're gonna have every buff now. So we do need to take Hinata out, and good, she has an ult. That's the important part. Okay, so here we go. Rimuru will now have the attack buff and the ult damage, and then the magic buff, and then one of these ants will have a magic resistance debuff. And then we can use Guy and apply a dark attack buff from the charm, and then the AoE debuff, which is only 15%? Yeah, 15%, plus the magic resistance on this one from Rain. The ults are buffed by 70%, and then Rimuru himself is looking at crit damage from the trait, crit rate, crit damage here, the dark attack somewhere down here, there it is, attack buff, magic attack, and then another 10% dark attack from the charm. So, I mean, in theory, this should look pretty good. In theory, right? How much does he do? I'm thinking like 200k? Maybe? I think I'm overselling him by a bit. He does have a good-looking ult, though, which is unfortunate, because you never use him. Alright, I'm going to say like 175 to 200k, somewhere around there. They do have a lot of defense, I believe, so maybe it's not a fair assumption. Maybe it's lower. 172. Okay, you know what? That, you know, with only slightly under what I was claiming, but still, that's not bad. And it wasn't like a super wonky team. Like, it was efficient. We got what we needed to in a rather short amount of time. And Milim, you know, by giving the ult damage, she's already a support unit, right? We just made her an even better support unit for the rest of the team if you have another dark character, on top of making herself a slightly better nuker. So I think overall, Milim's skill fusion is pretty good. Now again, I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning, but you do need to have Milim at level 100 to even begin to skill fuse her, which is a terrible thing that I really wish the devs would get rid of. So that is like the one huge caveat with skill fusions, is you can't do it until they're level 100 and maxed out. You don't need them 120, that's you don't need that, but they need to be level 100 for this to happen. So if you already have Milim, if you pulled a lot of her off like the 2nd anniversary tickets or something, and you can skill fuse her, then I would go ahead and do it, because it's not a terrible investment. I would rank her skill fusion a solid A, because all it does is make everything better, right? It's not taking away from anything, it's not, you know, increasing the cost of anything, it's making herself better by 10%, and making the rest of the Dark team better by 25%. So, pretty good win right there. But let me know what you guys think of this new Dark Milim skill fusion. That's it from me, take it easy, and I will see you all later.